Again, welcome everyone for our virtual fireside chat with Dr. Gunjan Bhardwaj, CEO and founder of Innoplexus, which is also popularly called as Google for Pharma or Google for Healthcare. Yeah, so I see some of you are also not so familiar with Startup Grind. I will give a bit introduction about Startup Grind. Startup Grind is the world's largest network of founders, startups, creators, and innovators. We bring like-minded yet diverse individuals together to connect, learn, help, build, and belong. So Startup Grant has chapters all over the world with 600 plus chapters in 125 countries. I recently launched this chapter in Duisburg last year, November. So we normally host these events, fireside chats, and we invite successful entrepreneurs and to learn from their experiences, from their startup journeys, and to get motivated for the next generation of entrepreneurs. Yeah, so as we all are in these crazy times due to this corona thing, so yeah, outbreak, yeah, we cannot conduct these in-person events. So that's why we are having this online event today. And this also in a way helped us to go out of Duisburg and travel to Frankfurt and to have Dr. Gunjan Bhardwaj as our guest speaker, who has an amazing startup journey to tell all of us, and we all have a lot of things to learn from his journey. So normally people travel abroad for to find better jobs or to pursue higher education and settle down after getting a higher paid jobs. But Gunjan, though he came to Germany to study higher studies, he did not settle down after getting a well-paid job. In turn, he founded his own company, and which is employing more than 250 people. And he has offices in Germany, India, and the United States. So once again, welcome Dr. Gunjan Bhardwaj for our event.
Thank you. Thank you.
And to moderate this fireside chat, I am welcoming my friend Michael. Michael, who is a very active startup community builder. He recently co-founded DueDash, who is on a mission to help all the startups to become investable. Welcome, Michael. Please have this fireside chat with Dr. Gunjan Bhardwaj. Over to you, Michael.
Thank you, Ranjan, for introduction. And yeah, very happy to have you, Gunjan, today here. And I think Ranjan already gave quite kind of introduction to you, like CEO and founder of Innoplexus, Google for Pharma, which we will soon learn more about. You're also a speaker at large-scale events such as TED Talks. You authored a book called Inside the Cockpit, Navigating the Complexity of Drug Development with AI and Blockchain, and also wrote many articles for renowned magazines. And I don't want to take too long with introductions and rather maybe just start with your company. So Innoplexus, tell us, what is it all about? What are you guys doing?
Innoplexus is the world's largest AI at scale platform for drug discovery and development. Why do I call it AI at scale? Because there are two schools of thought in this world. The one school of thought in AI says, throw NLP at any problem and it will solve all the challenges that you have. The other school is solve a point problem. So they are not just restricting themselves to an NLP, they do leverage so-called ontologies in order to understand the context of a specific domain. But many of these companies are focused on solving one point problem. The challenge with that is most of the biology is a complex system. So you might have a target in your human gut that impacts a disease in the brain. So you can't compartmentalize and create mini research graphs, hoping to understand the contexts, and then eventually a silver bullet, which could be a therapy. You need to have a holistic picture. And in order to do that, you need an ability to add all the published data that's out there, structure it and render it searchable for context, but at the same time have the ability to dock in, to plug in all the proprietary data seamlessly in the same graph. Once you have all this data, you can leverage a lot of AI approaches to identify novel biomarkers, novel therapies, and so on. The catch here is most of the people globally, they say for AI, you need data pools. And the Americans had many successful startups wherein companies just got the data from treatment centers, they sewed it together and then did some analytics and sold it off for billions of euros. There are many approaches similar to this in China and other Asian countries. So everybody is saying, create data pools. And many Germans and Europeans, you might have heard, have been complaining about that. The bus has already left the station and Germany would never catch up in AI, etc., etc. We, in a very humble opinion, think this is a very nonsensical approach to AI. Why should you rob people away from their IP in order to train your AI? Why should you steal data from patients who had no say in deciding whether somebody should have access to their data in order to train their models? I think Europe should lead the way, and that's what Innoplexus is doing. Our AI, which we call AI at scale, is a very equitable and scalable platform. We combine AI and blockchain together in a way that protects the IP of owners of data. And we can also create incentives for those who are ready to give their data or gradients in order to train models. And in this perspective, we are unique, extremely scalable. It's not very theoretical that you hear in some crypto events, what's the scale? We have commercially rolled out systems on blockchain that cover over 3 billion transactions a month. So it's really scalable, it's AI at scale, and has the ability of structuring the entire published and unpublished universe and rendering everything searchable for context. Once we do that, we leverage AI again for drug discovery.
So in the end, basically, like what you're doing here is you help the fight against diseases, now as you said, like Google for Pharma, by getting all that data piped in and finding the relevant information, kind of like I said, for the drug development. So I get further on and have, in the end, shorten, let's say, the time horizon.
Right. It's a completely new game with AI. People or companies needed up to 3 years to identify the right molecule, then synthesize, then go for preclinical validation. You can do it in a couple of days.
So you said then, your solution from 3 years to a couple of days, basically.
Right. And then in terms of clinical development, a lot of risk is on clinical development because a lot more money has to be spent in clinical development and eventual commercialization. And you are basically making a blind bet, and not blind completely. You do some experiments, but you don't know what the likelihood of success in a clinical setting would be. With AI, all of that is possible. So you're not just looking and optimizing an asset with respect to biological validation or all aspects related to biology, but also how that asset would fare out in clinical development and eventually when it gets out to the market. And that's unique and that's game changing. So you called us Google, and some newspapers use that phrase. Google is a horizontal extraction architecture. That's how some of the business model theorists define their business model. We are a vertical extraction architecture. We are focused on drug discovery and development.
It's a very interesting solution you built. But of course, what I find interesting here is that the starting point for what you have been built here, sadly, has been, let's say, the reason why you had to start it wasn't so positive. you know, it has started with a personal tragedy of yours. Would you be okay with sharing the story, you know, how you started or like why you started it?
Yeah, one of my best friends, my first bosses and mentors, he was diagnosed with cancer. And I spent some time while he was being treated from working from the hospital. It was a town close to Frankfurt. And, you know, me being in Germany, my only family was practically his family. So, you know, seeing the family and the person kind of helpless, you know, whom you always looked up to is always a shock. I'm sure for many of us, it has been the case. And it was not just then, it continues to be. We are helping a number of friends and family, people from the industry who reach out and say, hey, can your system tell us what are the alternative therapies? What are the right kind of trials that we could participate in? Or who are the real experts who could provide a qualified second opinion? So it happened then, and I reached out to some of my mentors and friends, and they all said, it's all about data, and the questions that you have are also very fundamental questions that all of us in the industry face day in and day out. Because, you know, some studies say medical knowledge is doubling every 73 days. That means in a year, you have 32 times more data. And it's not just the volume. I won't bore you with the veracity, variability, and all that. I mean, 4 Vs or 5 Vs of data, you all know that. Mm-hmm. But there is a high degree of specificity in drug discovery and development data in the life science space because there is a lot of innovation happening. Mm-hmm. You would have seen, you know, how many vaccine companies made statements during COVID-19 and, you know, how many new therapy approaches came to light and how many different variety of opinions were floating around. That's the degree of specificity and degree of innovation. So how do you create an engine, a platform that analyzes these exploding mountains of data and is able to make sense of all of this data to answer some of the most fundamental questions? So of course, we started working with pharmas and biotechs, but we have also partnered with a fund that invests based on our signals, our research, in publicly listed biotech companies. We are also going to launch a patient app called Curia for cancer patients in June that would answer in Germany and in US to start with, that would answer the 3 questions I had when my friend was diagnosed with cancer. Namely, what are the alternatives, right trials, and who are the real experts who can provide a qualified second opinion?
So how do you start building such a solution? Because now you have already built that company up, you know, you're over 10 years, you have over 250 employees in 3 continents. Where do you start? Like you had this vision, this idea, this problem, and when you wanted to build it, what was the first steps to actually build this AI solution?
Yeah, you start with the most fundamental problems. So the most fundamental problem in our case was how do we build the context in the life sciences space? If you have EGFR in life sciences could be a number of things. So how can I create a system that helps me contextualize what EGFR I'm talking about when I see a text, for instance? And that's where we started looking at ontologies and the work that was done in ontologies in order to see how we could leverage some of the work that's already done and bring it to a scale that it could be, you know, it could really help us build an AI that has scale. You know, just providing you a reference point to understand what I mean with that. A small child that's learning a language that typically starts with 2,800 word concepts and all the semantic associations between these word concepts. But when you parse that child's brain with a number of experiences, the associations and the new concepts keep on growing. In a similar way, you could start with a seeding ontology, which is a network of concepts and their semantic associations. It also has hierarchy. So you would have lung cancer, and below lung cancer, you'd have some sub-indications, and then you can divide it further, but it will also be branched. So it's a stacked forest, if I may call it. And once you have that basic ontology, you then start parsing a lot of data, making it rich and dynamic, like you grow a child. So we basically first got the child right, and then started parsing that child's brain with a lot of data to make that child more and more smart.
I like that concept. It's a bit like a puzzle, you know, like start having these pieces, and then you kind of build on top of that, and it grows and becomes something larger. We also have questions from the audience in general. So while I keep going with this interview, we will also, of course, consider your questions into this. And I think the question here fits exactly where we are right now. So Sujit Kumar just asks, how exactly do you use the AI for drug discovery? You know, you talked about how you kind of scaled that solution, but how do you exactly use AI to find new drugs? So he asked, like, what kind of parameters do you use? How do you use it in general?
Sure. So we start AI right. So we also use this phrase, we use AI to build AI, right? So when I say, you could look at it from two perspectives. From the platform itself, once we have built this AI at scale platform, that you can leverage neural networks on top, train it with all the clinical trial data to predict the likelihood of success of any clinical trial. Not only that, you could run simulations on over 350 parameters that combine the biological aspects, but also execution aspects. So which investigator, which hospital globally. We cover over 30,000 treatment centers globally, and over 20 million researchers working in drug discovery and development. So you could look at it from that perspective, or we have an in silico approach wherein we do look at 3D docking. You know, you have a generator and a filter, and the generator gets hundreds of parameters, including the side effect profile, metabolomics, polar surface area, binding affinity, And on the filter side, you would also have a number of parameters. Important is not to have just add-on parameters, as some of the enthusiasts here would know. The returns to adding parameters kind of plateau after a certain point in time. More important is to have a right resolution around parameters. You know, you need to have the right data. Because there is a lot of underrepresentedness in AI if you just focus on publicly available data, but that's true also in human languages. You know that, right? Chomsky defines human language as recursive grammar. More evolved people have two prerequisites to any language. The first prerequisite is the theory of mind, and second is culture. Theory of mind basically says, if I'm speaking in German to you, you would know what I mean, even if I don't express everything in the words that I need to express, because you have the context. In a similar way, you can address a lot of underrepresentedness in data if you have this graph, if you have the context. So that's one part. That's where we leverage AI on top of the platform to answer a lot of these questions. Now, in order to build this platform, just looking at the published universe, predicting which URLs are relevant for life sciences, scanning all the top level domains, we use AI there. What extension of a URL would give me the quality report of a hospital? How do I predict which URL is a hospital? Which URL is a clinical registry? So the discovery aspect itself. Then crawling up to 50 billion web pages a day. We also leverage classifiers and we also leverage AI there. Then it comes to unstructured PDFs, HTMLs, JPEGs. A lot of poster presentations and thousands of congresses that we crawl. They are images or PDFs. Extracting structured information from there. Computer vision, we again leverage AI. Then pulling it all of this in a graph. We have our own proprietary graph database technology and search technology, which we developed because when we worked with some of the providers, we always were hitting the boundaries of what's possible. And once all of this is in the platform, we leverage again AI to test our own data engineering and resolution pipeline. We follow pretty religiously. And I'll give you an example. If you have a PDF with a table which has 10 entries, and our extractor is able to extract and recognize 9, we give it a fail.
Oh, wow.
So many people say, and some of our own data scientists say, well, this is ridiculous. At least you were able to find 9 correct. So your precision should be 90%. And I say, to hell with the precision, that doesn't get me the analysis right? So if I miss that one, I have to, in theory, curate that one data point. I can't use this. This is not automated. So we have been extremely hard on what we consider high quality, and have been tracking this on a month-by-month basis. And this is maybe also a learning, because I see, some startups or some companies do the stuff they do for the sake of AI, not, AI is a means to an end. It's a means to an end. It's not an end itself. And in many of the meetings or events where we go, people, have simple recommendation algorithms. I mean, I don't want to demean anything, algorithms, and they call we use AI, right? So, and there is a running joke, and the joke goes like, what is the difference between machine learning and AI? And the answer is, machine learning is typically with Python, the programming language, and AI is with PowerPoint. So there is so much of nonsense. Yeah. So you shouldn't let your AI lovers hijack your business. Business is not built on AI. Business should have a specific value. AI is an enabler. So is technology.
I like your philosophy, and also that you are one of the few people that have here this kind of ability to dream and build such a large-scale solution, as you already said. With AI, people said like, oh, we're lacking behind, but you said, no, we're not lacking behind. I'm just building the solution, and you build it. And I think it's always very interesting to see people like you, where they're coming from, where they started out. And I read that you basically started by selling beanbags in the past to finance your studies. So it would be very interesting to hear that story, how you actually became an entrepreneur in the first place.
Thanks, Michael. My dad would kill me if I would say I financed my studies selling beanbags. He sent me money each month quite religiously. But I wanted to be an entrepreneur because when I came to this school in India, you saw many successful entrepreneurs and there were many smart people. I was blessed to be there. And to start a company, you need an idea. So a friend of mine and I, we had an idea of building pneumatic valves, pressure valves that are used in reactors. Because India was still importing some of these components and they were outside patent purview. So the idea was just to copy what was not patented or protected by patents and reverse engineer and build them and then sell it to companies that wanted those pneumatic valves in India. So we went to an alumnus because we had no clue how to start a company and, how to raise money. I was, I think, 18 then. So I went with this friend of mine to an alumnus in a nearby city. And he says, what do you want? Pneumatic valves. He was quite impressed. I mean, at least the sound of it. Then he looked around and he said, let's start with something simple. There was a beanbag. He says, go out in the market and find out for how much you can produce one beanbag. We went out, we saw a tailor, a material, etc. And in total, I think it was around 400, 500 rupees, which would be like 5-6 euros.
Yeah.
And he said, now go to the mall and find out for how much these beanbags are sold. 8,000, 9,000 rupees, 100 euros. So he said, do you still want to make? I said, no, we want to go with beanbags. And he gave us the first order of producing 10. Of course, we didn't get 9,000, 8,000 rupees. We got 2,000. And he said, that's the second learning from today. One is, profit per unit. Your unit economics should be great in whatever you produce. And the second learning was you never tell your costs to any potential customer or investor in the first meeting. So, yeah.
The voice way of a leverage. That's true.
Yeah, so we started producing these beanbags and selling them in Mumbai. And that was the third learning. You go to any house, you ring the bell. And it doesn't matter how much brain you have, or where you study, what your father does, what you are wearing. What sells is what you can say about your product and your product itself.
I very much find this interesting how this alumnus basically just said like, okay, you're not about entrepreneurship, here, do it. Just sell these beanbags, go out. This is a very practical advice, which I think would be very much good if we would have this more also here in Germany. If people say like, go out and do it actually. I think I heard in the US it's usually this lemonade stand example, and then you have these beanbags in India, or I think many other examples. And I think this is maybe something in entrepreneur education we would require here. And the fitting question here from Milind is now that he said, hey, he wrote it just to me privately. He said that, hey, Gunjan, you have a very solid education background with what you got from alumnus of business, from your technical expertise. And Milind just asked, so what do I do if I want to be an entrepreneur in a field where I don't have that level of expertise? How do I start developing that knowledge to build a startup?
You find somebody who has that level of expertise and you start reading. It's entrepreneurship is all about doing. It's nothing theoretical. You can't do courses and become an entrepreneur. I think it's a waste of time. And thanks, it's very kind of some of the people here saying that I have a very solid academic background. I mean, it just happened that I did a PhD and a master's, and I didn't plan all of that. And I think many people who say they planned everything when they were born or very small, either are geniuses or are just lying through their teeth. Life happens. I think I should have started Innoplexus maybe 5 years, maybe even earlier. So it's all about doing. Once you do it, things get into place. So you read a lot about something that interests you, focus on business, not on tech is an enabler. And I think, you may fail, but that's also okay.
Talking about doing, as you said, just do it and make it. You started your business in Germany, also come here to study. The question, I guess, would be, why in Germany? Because you could have started in India, you could have moved to the United States, Singapore, Hong Kong. Why Germany?
Because I knew the market here. You need to know the market. I did some consulting work with pharmaceutical companies, biotechs. I thought I had an idea. I never worked in India. I studied in India. I never worked in India. I did some casework in the US, in Australia, and different parts of the world. But Germany was the only country where I thought I have some understanding of the market and what's done here. And that's the most important thing. So, the idea was to get the first customers, talk to them, let them stress test the work you do, and then step by step develop a product.
So now if you have already went through this kind of journey, now you have done all these things, you eventually also started sharing the knowledge as an author, as a speaker. I guess what would be curious for me is also to know, did that experience also help you to further develop and hone the skills you already have, going on stage, writing these books?
It's a difficult question. I think it's everybody's duty to share whatever his or her experiences are, and it's for the others to see whether they could take something from it. I don't think I prepare. It's not a skill for me to speak or to write something. If it comes naturally to me, so if I work on an idea, I can put it, maybe it's my training. Yeah. So when you do a PhD, you have to write a dissertation. So maybe, that's the reason. Or just communicating, talking, your experiences. I think if you're genuine and you're speaking what you actually do, and it's not crammed and PowerPoint slides, then it comes also very natural. And as you are asking me questions, Michael, maybe, you are giving me some foods of thought to think about and see, right? So that's how I communicate. I participate in such events and I gain quite a bit from there. But I don't think it has helped me pitch to investors better, or I don't think, or to customers better. That hasn't been the case.
Okay, maybe just like as a personal development and getting a deeper understanding in this way. What I guess would also be interesting then, maybe to know for our audience, because we have also other people, who just like you came from another country to another place. I personally lived in China for 2 years, lived in India for some time. And I've always was curious how people go to another country and start a business, which challenges they face. Because at the end of the day, of course, it's still not as easy if you're a local, right? Some people would argue, or some people would argue maybe a difference. Did you face some specific challenges starting a business in Germany as being not for native? Or did you actually think you had some advantages maybe for that, being not a German?
It's also depends on the kind of person you are. So I always see the glass half full. So I can just recall advantages that I had in Germany. Maybe there were some, but I never crib. I'm a hopeless optimist. So maybe you have to kind of factor that in normalizing my response. I think everybody supported me. This was the best country I could think of coming, and India was the best country to grow up and get the best undergrad education on the planet. I've been blessed. Everybody was super supportive, be it customers where I said, I want to give it a genuine try. They supported me. And, if you are sharing the risk and saying, hey, if it works, if it doesn't work, but everybody was supportive. And now you say the governments, the society, they all come with open arms if they see that you are creating value. I think it would have been the same in India, not different. I think it would have been the same in US, in any country. But I'm glad I came to Germany.
Happy to hear that. But it's a good, I think, piece of advice that regardless of where you're going, if you create value, people will kind of open up to you. And because we have, I guess, also a couple of people who are experts or who are living in Germany or other places where not native, would that also be your suggestion if they want to start a business now, see where the value is, or where should they start off?
They should start right away. If you want to start, don't make it theoretical. Don't run around to 5 people because you believe those 5 people have are wiser than you. And I mean, it's all learning by doing. All entrepreneurs are built on their failures, and just be an optimist, see the positive in everything, and try and start.
Mhm. There were also some things that helped you starting this in Frankfurt, because at the moment, if you look at Germany, places where you find a lot of, let's say, more international startup scenes, like cities like Frankfurt, Munich, Berlin, maybe Hamburg. But then, of course, Duisburg has like a less developed scene in that sense. What would you suggest maybe for places like that? Now, if like the foreign founders want to start something, we don't have the same support network as maybe you would get in Frankfurt.
Yeah, it depends on what you want to do as an entrepreneur. I think, if it's an internet e-startup or whatever, I mean, Germany, from one place to the other, you have autobahns, you have fantastic railroad system network. So Duisburg is not somewhere wherein you need, 2 days walking and, 1 day with a train. It's pretty connected. I mean, unless you want to open a casino, there even, Frankfurt would be a bad city. But I think it's, in Berlin, you had a lot of e-commerce startups that basically, copied the US models, who further copied from Korean models. And then one company starts, and then second and third, and you build an ecosystem. That doesn't mean Berlin is the Mecca of all startups. Mm-hmm. There are fantastic startups in Munich. Frankfurt has all the money. Frankfurt has a very vibrant cosmopolitan community, fantastic airport. So I thought, there are a number of pharmaceutical companies close by. You have the best and one of the best and biggest biotech companies in Europe, BioNTech in Mainz. You have Merck, you have Boehringer Ingelheim, you have Fresenius. So for me, this place made sense. But I think you can have a startup anywhere. It's, in today's time, and specifically in Germany, I wouldn't say, that a town would have a disadvantage. Yeah, the only thing I could see, as I said, is, if your market is elsewhere, like, if you want to put a casino in Duisburg, I think that would be a long shot.
I think I saw some casinos before, but I wouldn't enter these. Don't know how much revenue we make. I think we can still go, I guess, with some more questions from the audience. Very interesting. And here from Arun M. He said, thank you for sharing your stories. What has been your best learning moment in building your business?
Yeah, that it always seems tough and impossible, but if you keep faith, you get through it.
Just keep
entrepreneurship is also very spiritual in a way. You have to be an observer. You have to be a bit detached, and you need to have a higher purpose in life than the other mortals have. So these three, if I would say, to any Buddhist or any yogi in Himalayas, you would say, I'm talking about the, the spiritual path, but that's the entrepreneurial path.
So your religion is entrepreneurship, basically.
My religion is, I'm a very proud Hindu, but I believe every religion teaches, how you can be a good entrepreneur. You need to have a higher purpose in life. You can't do it to get some more money or get whatever. You should be driven to create an impact. And, if you have that higher purpose, then things fall in shape. And as I said, you have to be detached. You can't be married to an idea, because you have to be extremely meritocratic about your own ideas. And if somebody gives a better idea, you should be able to accept that idea. Many people have these, false egos. Human beings have that. That's not what helps you. And then having this very strong faith, because there will always be challenges in terms of getting the investors, getting the customers. Every day is challenging. And if you won't have faith, you would go bonkers. So you need a very strong faith system.
Yeah, I think I saw it also, like Doesn't matter, was it in China, was it in India or Germany, where I saw entrepreneurs who are very successful, often they had like a more belief in something higher, like you said, where they have a purpose, where they work on it, and something that gives them like this guidance. And may it be you're a Hindu, maybe a Muslim, a Christian, or whatever you are, as if you have that guidance in a spiritual way, it enables you to build something larger, something that helps humanity as a whole, like you are doing. And I guess also right now you're not just fighting diseases, you're also, for many people, you're fighting like COVID also at the moment. I guess that's helping many, many people.
Yeah, we are doing our bit. We rolled out a dashboard. We said any university research institute that wants access to our platform, we provided access. We started an analysis of potential combination therapies that could have an impact. And we also have a novel molecule program. I think we are in the synthesis stage. Once the molecules are synthesized, we are very quickly going into preclinical validation.
And hopefully that can help definitely the development of a vaccine for like what we're having right now. If you still have some time, we can go through some more questions just to know how, like, because we have a couple more of people who asked some questions here.
Sure.
From Kunj, who I think was also active in, I think you were like in biochemistry, as far as I remember. Since your company is related to the healthcare domain, what are the challenges that you face that are specific to the healthcare domain? Maybe not like in your industry.
I mean, that would happen in any industry, but there are always skeptics. And typically when I started, the questions were, somebody would come, I have 20 years of experience, I've tried everything under the sun. Why should I believe what you are saying would work? I say I'm not. That was the first challenge, because you have a lot of traditionalists in certain industries, and healthcare and pharma is one, which has been extremely conservative. Now they are starting to open up, but it has been a very traditionalist-oriented industry. But then if you meet such people, your belief that there is a huge disruption potential becomes even stronger. So that was the biggest challenge. AI is nonsense, nothing has worked. And these are the 5 papers that have been published. And everything is worth its salt, with respect to the value you can derive from it. And we were open and we said, hey, just try. If we deliver what we are saying, and if it works, at least be open to listen to us. But I must admit, it took 2 to 3 years for the industry to open up, and we had to be persistent and prove ourselves right.
Okay. I will take, I guess, here one more question from the audience, from Chanesha Madari. So you said that your business involves many countries, of course, many different regulatory frameworks. So you deal with all kinds of governments. How kind of do you deal with that? When you work with these governments, of regulations you have.
Follow rules, have good lawyers. Yeah. Pharma regulations or whatever we do, like launching an app, we stress test everything with good advisors before, and we follow all the rules and have the right advisors in place.
Have the right team there. That's a great advice. Kind of like to close it off, I think I will ask you a more fun question. If you would have a superpower, Gunjan, what would it be? And I have a feeling I might have an idea what it could be, but maybe I'm wrong.
If I would have a superpower, I'll take all the diseases off the planet.
I would have thought exactly something like that, because I guess that's your mission. And hopefully then, even without the superpower, your company is like the superpower. You're helping that drug research. So maybe it will come to food, hopefully. And I guess we will all wish you the best of that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. What we wish is not that human beings live eternally, but there should be no suffering, even at the end of our lives. We should live peacefully and die peacefully.
That's a great thing to work on. And I think you will surely make a lot more progress on that as you already did. And really awesome to have you here and share your insights. Thank you, Gunjan.
Thank you.